Imagine you are 18 years old. You are just trying to fly a kite on a sunny afternoon. The wind is good. The sky over Niterói is that deep, cloudless blue you only get in Rio de Janeiro. You climb Vintém Hill, looking for that perfect launch, sweat on your neck, the city sprawling below you. And then you see them. Two bodies. Lying in the grass. Perfectly still. At first, you think they're sleeping. But as you get closer, your stomach drops. They are wearing formal suits. Expensive raincoats. On a day without a single cloud. And over their eyes, crudely crafted masks. Not cloth. Not paper. Solid lead. Hammered flat by hand. They glint dully in the August sun. You don't fly your kite. You run. When police finally arrive the next morning, because the terrain was too rough to climb at night, the scene is already compromised. Reporters have been there, trampling evidence, taking photos. But what they find defies explanation. Next to the bodies, a notebook sits open, the pages slightly damp from the morning dew. Inside, a cryptic message that reads like a sci-fi death warrant, 1630 be at the determined location. 1830 ingest capsules. After the effect, protect metals. Await signal. Mask. What were they waiting for? Who gave the signal? And why lead? Lead blocks radiation. Lead blocks light. Lead is heavy and cold against the skin. What were they protecting themselves from? Was this a spiritual ritual gone horribly wrong? A meeting with extraterrestrials? Or a murder so bizarre that the military government decided to bury it forever? This is not a movie. This is the lead masks case. A mystery that has remained unsolved for nearly 6 decades. And today, we are going to pick apart every single clue, every dead end, and every theory that has kept investigators awake at night since 1966. Meet Manoel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel José Viana. Two family men. Two hardworking electronics technicians living in Campos dos Goitacazes, Brazil. By all accounts, they were normal, respected, and stable. Manoel was 32, a husband and father. Miguel was 34, also married, with a reputation as a quiet, serious man. On the morning of August 17, 1966, they tell their families they have a business trip. They're heading to Sao Paulo to buy some electronic parts and check out a used car. They take a wad of cash with them, the equivalent of about $3,000 today. Enough to buy a car. Enough to make a deal. But here is the first fracture in the story, the lie. They didn't go to Sao Paulo. They went in the complete opposite direction, to Niterói, a city just across the bay from Rio. Why lie to your wife about a business trip? What were they running from? Or toward? They arrive in Niterói at 2:30 p.m. Their first stop. An electronics store. But oddly, they don't buy anything. They don't even speak to the clerk. They just look around, check their watches, and leave. Then, it starts to rain. A heavy, tropical downpour. So they duck into a clothing store and buy 2 identical, heavy-duty waterproof raincoats. Here is the detail that haunts investigators: the clerk says they were in such a hurry, they didn't even put them on. They ran out into the pouring rain, holding the coats under their arms. If you're buying a raincoat, why not wear it in the rain? Unless you weren't buying it for the rain at all. Unless the raincoat was part of something else. Something they expected to face later. Next stop, a dingy local bar called Bar do Alvaro. Miguel walks in alone. He doesn't order alcohol. He doesn't order food. He buys a single bottle of mineral water. The waitress, a woman named Dona Ivete, later told police he was very nervous. He kept looking at his watch, checking the time obsessively, glancing toward the door. And here's the detail that breaks your heart: he keeps the receipt. In Brazil, you could return the glass bottle for a deposit. He actually planned to come back. He thought he was coming back. He didn't think he was going to die. At 5 p.m., they are seen at the base of Vintém Hill. They aren't walking. They are climbing out of a jeep. Inside the jeep, a blonde-haired driver and 2 other men. The witnesses couldn't see their faces. The 2 technicians, carrying their new raincoats and a bottle of water, walk up the hill. They are never seen alive again. 3 days pass. August 20th. The boy with the kite crests the hill and finds them. When investigators finally arrive, the scene is chaos. But even in the chaos, certain details are impossible to ignore. The bodies are lying side by side, peacefully. Their hands are behind their heads, almost like they were sunbathing or taking a nap. No signs of a struggle. No blood. No wounds. They are wearing the new raincoats over their formal suits. And on their faces, the lead masks. These aren't fancy. They are crude, hand-cut sheets of lead, shaped roughly like sunglasses, with thin wire to hold them over the eyes. Lead is soft. You can bend it with your hands. You can hammer it flat on a rock. But why lead? Lead blocks radiation. Lead blocks light. Lead is heavy and cold against the skin. What were they expecting to see that was so bright it would blind them? What were they protecting themselves from? Next to them, an empty water bottle. 2 damp towels, neatly folded. And the notebook. The note reads, 1630B at the determined location. 1830 ingest capsules, after the effect protect metals await signal mask. Protect metals. What does that mean? Are we talking about the lead masks? Or is there something else? Were they grounding themselves against an electrical charge? Were they shielding themselves from an electromagnetic pulse? And who wrote the note? The handwriting has never been matched to either man. Remember the thousands of dollars they took? It's gone. Mostly. Police find a tiny amount of change left in their pockets. Was this incompetence, or something else? If you're a robber, why leave the bodies posed? Why put masks on them? Why not just take the cash and run? And if they were robbed on that hill, where are the killers? The hill is open. There's no cover. Someone would have seen something. Then there's the autopsy. This is the moment where the case slides from strange to suspicious. The coroner's office in Rio was too busy. They wait weeks to do the autopsy. Weeks. By then, the bodies are too decomposed to test for poison or drugs. In 1966 Brazil, under a military dictatorship that didn't like questions, was that delay incompetence? Or was someone making sure those bodies stayed silent? We will never know what was in those capsules. We will never know if they were hallucinogens, poison, or something else entirely. And one more thing that keeps investigators up at night, 3 days. Open on a hill. Crawling with bugs. Rats. Vultures. The area is tropical. Life is aggressive. Yet, the police report explicitly states that the bodies were untouched by animals. Not a single bite. No ants. No birds. Nothing. For 3 days, no animal touched them. As if nature itself was afraid to go near them. As if something about that spot, or those men, repelled the natural world. So, who were these guys? Police search their homes. They don't find bomb-making materials or spy gear. They find something weirder. Books on the occult. Spiritism. Ufology. A friend of the men comes forward. He says they weren't just electronics techs by day. At night, they were part of a fringe group practicing what they called scientific spiritualism. They believed you could use electronics, radio frequencies, crystals, magnets, to contact higher beings. Spirits. Or aliens. They weren't tourists in the supernatural. They were experimenters. Look at the note again. It reads like a lab protocol. 1630-1830. Ingest capsules. This wasn't a suicide note. It was a checklist. They were following instructions. The theory that has gained the most traction among serious researchers is that they were participating in a ritual. They were going to take a hallucinogenic drug, likely LSD or a powerful psychedelic brew, to open their minds. They expected to be met by a blinding light or a being of pure energy. Hence the lead masks. To protect their retinas. To shield them from the radiance they believed was coming. But something went wrong. Did they take too much? Did the signal they were waiting for, maybe a strobe light or some device they built, trigger a fatal reaction? Or did the capsules contain a poison, and they were murdered by whoever gave them the instructions? This leads us to the most famous theory. Brazil in the 1960s was a hotspot for UFO sightings. In 1957, there was the Ubatuba incident. In 1965, dozens of sightings over the coast. And in 1977, the Brazilian military launched Operação Prato, a full-scale investigation into UFOs in the Amazon. This case landed in the pages of the famous Flying Saucer Review just months after it happened. Let's read between the lines. Protect metals. What if they were instructed to remove all metal from their bodies? Watches, belts, coins, so they wouldn't be burned by some energy field. The damp towels. Maybe to cool themselves. Await signal. Mask. They put the masks on after ingesting the capsules, waiting for a signal. A light in the sky. Proponents point to the lack of animal interference. Sometimes, in cases of high radiation, animals avoid an area. Is it possible they were exposed to some kind of energy? The peaceful pose suggests they didn't suffer. They just stopped. But here is the counter-argument. If aliens killed them, why pose them so nicely? Why leave the note? It seems too human. Too ritualistic. And then there is the mysterious woman. Investigators found a lead that a woman had bought the water bottle at the bar for them. She handed it to them. She was seen speaking with them. She was never identified. Was she the contact? The one who gave them the capsules and the instructions? Did she walk up that hill with them? And if so, where is she now? There's another theory that rarely gets discussed. The industrial espionage angle. They were electronics technicians with a lot of cash, lying about their trip, meeting mystery men in a jeep. Brazil in 1966 was under military rule. The government was heavily investing in technology, in communications, in radar. Could this have been a covert deal? A sale of stolen plans or components? The lead masks could have been crude welding masks. The capsules could have been vitamins. And the note could have been a coded meeting memo. But then why the occult books? Why the spiritualist connections? Unless that was the cover. Unless being seen as weird was the perfect disguise for men moving in the shadows. Let's sit with the scene on that hill for a moment. Close your eyes and picture it. The grass is dry now, the rain long gone. The city hums in the distance. The two men are lying there, side by side, as if they simply lay down and never got up. Their faces are covered in lead. You can't see their eyes. You can't see their fear or their peace. The masks are crude, uneven, hammered by hand. They don't fit perfectly. There are gaps around the edges. They glint in the sun. The notebook sits open, the ink slightly smudged. The towels are damp, folded, placed with care. For 3 days, no animal touched them. For 3 days, the sun rose and set on them, and the world kept moving below. And then a boy with a kite found them, and the world stopped. The official police file is closed. Cause of death, undetermined. A fancy way of saying, we have no idea. The most logical explanation is the spiritualist experiment theory. They were amateur occultists experimenting with drugs. They took a bad batch. They died simultaneously. The masks were part of the ritual. But that doesn't explain the Jeep with the mysterious men. It doesn't explain the missing money. It doesn't explain why they lied to their families. And it really doesn't explain why they thought lead masks were a necessary part of the outfit. Maybe the capsules weren't drugs. Maybe they were time-release poison, and the killers took the money and the real evidence. The lead masks were just a bizarre red herring to make the cops think it was a supernatural event so they wouldn't look for a real murderer. In 1966 Brazil, with a government that didn't like scandal, that might have worked. In the end, Manoel and Miguel took their secrets to the grave. They went up that hill looking for something. God, aliens, enlightenment, money. And all they found was death. The lead masks case remains unsolved because every answer leads to 10 more questions. It sits at the perfect crossroads of true crime and the paranormal. And that is why, almost 60 years later, we are still talking about it. Now, I want to hear from you. What is your theory? Were they amateur occultists who bit off more than they could chew? Did they actually make contact with something we don't understand? Was it murder staged to look like a mystery? Or was it something else entirely? Drop your craziest theories in the comments below. I read them all, and I'll pin the best one. If you made it this far, you are officially one of us, someone who needs to know the truth. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We dive into cases like this every week, and you don't want to miss the next one. And if this video gave you chills, and I know it did, smash that like button. It helps the algorithm take us to the top of the hill. And finally, share this video with a friend who loves scary stories. Text it to them right now. Say, hey, stop wearing that mask. Stay curious. And stay weird.